Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai. Nitya Leela Om Vishnupad. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Rupa Nugagura Bhagya ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gopi Govardhan Shamakunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Jamunaji ki jai. Jai Samadvaita Vaishnava Mandali ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All right.
No Dianeti today. I think we got a text.
No. It doesn't really make any difference anyway, does it? Okay, so welcome everyone to our Sunday afternoon broadcast from the East London branch, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mott. And as usual, we're going through the books of our Guru Bharga. And now we're going, at the moment, through the books of Srila Govinda Maharaj. We are on Religion of the Heart, on part 2, chapter 2, Krishna's Wonderful Associates. So it's each of these chapters is describing the 4 unique spiritual qualities of the Lord Krishna. It's said that Narayana Vaikuntha, he has 60 qualities, and Krishna has 64 qualities. 4 qualities that are not present in Narayan, and that is the Leela Madhuri, Venu Madhuri, Rupa Madhuri, and Parika Madhuri. These 4, that means his very sweet pastimes, his very sweet flute, his very sweet form, and his very sweet associates. So this chapter 2 is called Krishna's Wonderful Associates. Atulya Madhura Prema Mandita Priya Mandala. In his activities of conjugal love, he is always surrounded by his dear devotees who possess unequaled love for him. The next quality, Srila Rupa Goswami explains, that belongs exclusively to Krishna and not to any other form of the Lord, is that Krishna has wonderful associates. Okay, just a moment. I was forgetting this. Boom. Krishna has wonderful associates who are always serving him with love and affection. Atulya Madhura Prema Mandita Priya Mandala. All the Brajabasis and associates of Krishna in Vrindavan Dham give pleasure to Krishna's heart 24 hours a day with their miraculous service, miraculous faith, and miraculous love. Narayan and other incarnations of the Lord do not have this quality. They do not have such an all-attractive character that attracts such spontaneous, loving, devotional affection from their servitors. In Vrindavan Dham, Krishna is always served by his devotees with 5 types of divine relationships: Shanta Rasa, Dasya Rasa, Sakya Rasa, Vatsalya Rasa, and Madhura Rasa. So, just on aside from that, tomorrow is Shivratri, And so today, the Bengali Devotees Association that come here sometimes, they're celebrating Mahashivratri up the road there. So, no. That,
Oh, maybe higher. That one.
Okay.
Plastic road.
so, yeah, Plastic Grove, yeah. So we won't see any of them today, I would think. In Vrindavan Dham, Krishna is always served by his devotees with 5 types of divine relationships: Shantarasa, Dashyarasa, Sakyarasa, Vatsalyarasa, and Madhura Rasa. In Sakyarasa, Krishna's friends always try to give pleasure to his heart, as if they are in an equal position with him. When they eat something and feel it is very good, even if it is half eaten, they give it to Krishna, saying, "Oh Krishna, this apple is very good, taste it. This sandesh is so nice, please try. This mango is wonderful, take it. Or this type of play is very nice, let's play." They play with Krishna and feel Krishna and themselves are equal, only that Krishna is a little more special. In Govardhan Dara Leela, Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill and held it for 7 days. All the cowherd boys, cowherd men, and even the cowherd girls took sticks to help him. They thought, Krishna has taken the whole of Govardhan Hill in his hand. He has some special power, no doubt, but still we must help him. Everyone has heard how much Krishna's father and mother, Nanda Maharaj, and Jashodamai and Rohini serve him. An example of this intense servitorship is shown in the shlokas of Sri Damodarastakam. Rudantam muho netram jugam rijantam karamboja jugmena satanka netram muhu swasha kampa triranka kanta stiti graiva damodaram bhakti badam. The expression in this sloka is very nice. Mother Jashoda is angry. She is chasing Krishna and wants to capture him and beat him for being naughty. Krishna is running and looking over his shoulder and then can't see any more because his eyes are full of tears. He is so afraid. Rudantam moho netram jugmam rijantam. He's out of breath and so tired. He is suffering so much. Muhu swasakampa trirekanka kanta. You won't see these qualities in the pastimes of Narayana Leela. Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is vividly expressed in other shlokas of Sri Damodarastakam. The last verse is especially nice. Namaste stu damne sporadipti damne tvadiyo darayata vishvasya damne namo radikaya tvadiya priyaya namo nanta lilaya devaya tubhyam. Mother Jashoda wants to bind Krishna with a rope. An effulgence has come from that rope, and the author says, I bow down to that rope. Namaste stu damne spura dipti damne. Who has Mother Jashoda bound? She has bound the creator of the whole creation with a rope. Mother Jashoda has bound Krishna's belly with a rope. These are the pastimes of Vatsalya Rasa, which take place in Vrindavan Dham, between Krishna and his devotees. In the last shloka of Damodarastakam, the author mentions Madhura Rasa, the conjugal pastimes of Krishna. In the last shloka of Damodarastakam, the author mentions Madhura Rasa, the conjugal pastimes of Krishna. he says, Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Prayaya, Namo Nanta Lilaya Devasya Devaya Tubhyam. I do not want to say anything more. I can only say, I bow to Radhika and the Supreme Lord. I can't say anything about your transcendental pastimes, which are manifest in the material world with your divine associates. Your pastimes are infinite. There is no end and no beginning to them. Here the author also indicates the glories of Srimati Radharani. I can't say anything more about Radharani's pastimes. They are beginningless and continue 24 hours a day with her Lord Krishna. Her Pranavalabha, her heart and soul. She is the dearest of the dearest and nearest of the nearest. Radharani's service is briefly expressed in the above shloka. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan has given another very nice shloka. Govinda Bida Mandira Shrita Padam Hastashta Ratnadibat Tattvam Tatta Vidhutama Kititale Yo Darshayan Chakratu. He says, if one holds a jewel in his hand, he can show the jewel in various ways by holding it differently. Rupa and Sanatana Goswami have each dealt in various ways with the jewels by the name of Govinda, who is always served by the supreme goddess of fortune. They have both shown that high substance, Govinda, to the world, just as a jewel within their palms. Only Radharani can do this type of service. Rupa and Sanatana Goswami can also do, but without Radharani's mercy, no one can do it. No one can give a second example of this type of exclusive service. She is her own example. A small sparkling light of the jeweled pastimes of Radha and Krishna come to this world through Jayadev Goswami, Chandidas, Rupa Goswami, Ramananda Roy, all from various Goswamis. A small amount of sparkling light comes to this world, and through that we can understand very little. We can't conceive of Krishna's pastimes and of Krishna's relations with his devotees that take place in Madhura Rasa in Vrindavan Dham. There are three groups of Brajagopis. One is the adolescent group, another is mature and married, and the third is the paramour group. We cannot conceive of these pastimes from our present position. Jayadev Goswami has written many shlokas about Radharani's pastimes, and they are of the first group, the adolescent group, and it is best not to try and explain them. Another example of Madhura Rasa with the Brajagopis is shown in a verse composed by Prabodhananda Saraswati. In this verse, Krishna says, when Radharani walks in front of me and I feel a little breeze from her cloth, I think, oh, I am so fortunate. Jasya kadapi vasananchala kelana nota dayani tanya pavenena kritarta mani yogindra durgam gatir madhusudanopi tasya namo sti brishabhanu vodishepi. Prabodhananda Saraswati composed this miraculous shloka. The meaning is, I bow to the direction where Radharani lives. Whether it is in the east or the west, I bow to that direction. I do not bow to her lotus feet or her house, only to the direction where her father's house is. When Krishna feels a little breeze from Radharani's cloth, he feels this way. Every day in Vrindavan, Radharani would distribute food to the Brajabalakas by the order of Mother Jashoda. Radharani cooked one item for Krishna because Durvasa Muni had very mercifully given her a boon that whoever she cooked for would get a long life. Durvasaratani tenho panchanena bara amrita hoite pakka tanra adhika madhura. This is in the Antilila of Chaitanya's Charitamrita.
What page are we on, Mr. Prabhu?
84. Mother Jashoda knew this, so every day she requested Jatila and Kutila to send their sister-in-law to make a sabji for Krishna. When Radharani would distribute that, a breeze from her cloth would come to Krishna and he would feel, oh, I am so fortunate. I'm so happy. Krishna feels his life is blessed and fulfilled by feeling a little breeze from Radharani's cloth. He thinks this breeze inspires him so much that he wants to feel it again and again. He's fully satisfied by feeling the breeze from Radharani's cloth. Krishna gets these feelings from only the breeze of Radharani's cloth. So you can imagine how much Krishna must be satisfied by getting her intimate association. This is Madhura Rasa. These are the types of pastimes that take place between Krishna and Radharani and her associates in Vrindavan Dham. They take place in Madhura Rasa 24 hours a day in Govardhan, Radhakund, Shamakund, Manasaganga, the Jamuna, and in her house. They take place everywhere in Vrindavan Dham. Narayan can't taste these pastimes. They won't come to his taste. If they would, he would feel they are bitter. Narayan lives by rules and regulations. He is a law-abiding personality. In Vrindavan Dham, the only law is love and affection, or Krishna Prema. Well, there we are. A short chapter. Any questions about that? No, all right. Nothing, right?
I just think it's quite amazing that somebody who can do everything, anything, and nobody's envious of him. I thought that was quite
Well, we're all pretty envious of him, aren't we?
No, but to be in that world,
Yeah, but you can't, because they're full of love for him. They don't think about me. Nobody thinking me. They're thinking him. So, and how can we please him? No one's thinking, oh, what about me? Everybody's fully satisfied in their service to him. And that's the only possibility of being able to be there. Anybody who has any separate interest, they can't go there. It's impossible. Have to be fully 100, or as Govinda Maharaj would say, 200% devoted to Krishna. Then there's no chance of any envy or any other kind of emotion coming in there. Impossible. Because that would be Maya, right? So that would mean that Mahamaya has entrance into Vrindavan, and of course she's not able to go there, only as Jogamaya. What about me? That's the very nature of this material world, that we're always thinking, what about me? When do I get mine? You know? So that's our disqualification. That's why right in the beginning, the first few verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, there it says, Nirmatsaranam Satam. That this scripture is meant for those who are not envious. Nirmatsaranam. The transcendental devotees of Lord Krishna, they don't feel envy, they feel ecstatic joy when they hear about Krishna's pastimes. You can understand something of that, like a mother when she sees her child, you know, even just like, you know, winning the egg and spoon race at the school or whatever, you know, how much she feels like, wow, my life is successful now, you know. Yes, my little boy or my little girl won the egg and spoon race. Something like that. A kind of pride. They all feel a kind of pride in the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. And you hear that over and over again. You know, if you read Srila Prabhupada's summary of the 10th canto, the Krishna book, like almost every chapter when he's with the cowherd boys, it ends with them all going, Jai Krishna, yeah, Krishna is the greatest, you know, like he's done everything. It's so wonderful. This is how it is. No, and of course in the Boma Lila there are those, like we see those demons, Pralamba and so on, who are pretending to be Krishna's cowherd friends, disguising themselves as that, but with the idea of killing Krishna. A whole succession of them, you know, and Krishna or Balaram always gets the better of them. So, you know, Guru Maharaj saying that the opposition party is necessary for, you know, to bring out the hero. You know, like in any kind of story, then there has to be some protagonist that the hero has to face and maybe overcome like insurmountable odds. But by doing that, his heroism and his everything is enhanced by that. It's all part of that. So this is necessary. But Jiva Goswami has said that this is one of the differences between Gokula and Goloka. So in Goloka, there aren't any demons. There's just rumors of demons. But in Gokula, by the arrangement of Jogamaya, the demons come in all the time, like so many of them, right? And Krishna is defeating them. So, and also similarly in Jiva Goswami said that in Goloka, none of the cowherd girls are actually married to anybody else. They just feel something that they belong to somebody else, and that when they're going to Krishna, it's like a naughty thing that they're doing. You know, they feel that's. But in Goloka, Krishna's the only husband, so that's also there, and like that, and of course in Gokula. In his Boma Lila pastimes, everything has like a succession, progression, going from beginning to end, and like that then. But in Goloka, everything is moving in a circular way. Guru Maharaj explaining like that, you know, that in Goloka, when Krishna goes to Mathura with Akrura, and everyone's very sad. Oh, Krishna's gone away, and then he says, they're thinking, oh, poor Mother Jashoda, poor Nanda Maharaj, you know, they lost their son, and then Guru Maharaj says, then it evolves. That feeling evolves. That Jashoda and Nanda Maharaj if only they had a son. They don't have any son. If they could have a son. And then that makes way for Krishna's appearance again. It's all going in like a circular way. But Srila Guru Maharaj, in his usual, kind of extraordinary way, he says that this proves that Gokula is more original than Goloka. And then when I heard that from Guru Maharaj, it was just like something was like the fuse was blowing in my head. Like, how's that possible? How can that be possible? But this is Guru Maharaj's explanation, that Gokula is even more original than Goloka. And if you try and rationalize that in any way, it's just your brain will implode. There's just no way that you can really accommodate that other than by faith. Okay? Guru Maharaj said it must be so.
It has to be realised.
Yeah, of course, yeah, of course.
But Guru Maharaj said, Guru Maharaj said also, the lowest position here, beggar and slavery, is the highest position there. It doesn't appear to be like slavery in the spiritual realm, but everything is for Krishna.
Yeah.
Whereas here, to be a slave or a beggar is the worst position, but there is the highest position.
But even here people understand that ideal, right? There's the song, isn't there? Slave to love, right? We want to be a slave to love. Nobody wants to be like a slave in the normal sense of the word, but slave to love, yeah, I'm up for that. And what's that song? Is it Bill Withers or something? Everybody's saying, that she's using me. And they say, but if it feels this good being used, then just use me up. So, that's... People understand that principle. That, we can be a slave to love. And Krishna is love. So there's no malice in his nature at all. There's nothing harmful in his nature. Then to be a slave to that we can understand. That must be the highest thing. But Saraswati Thakur was criticized for that. Oh, Gaudiya Mata preaching slavery. That's their preaching, slavery. But but his response was that the slavery of to Lord Krishna is represents the highest dignity of man. So the highest thing. So then, and actually, we always say that when someone's initiated and they get their name Das or Dasi, we say it means servant, right? Das, but actually it means slave. Das means slave boy and Dasi means slave girl. That's what it actually means, literally. So okay. But we don't say that because people might balk at that a little bit,
But with like Krishna's pastimes, everything is so intense. It's like you either really love him, or you really hate him, you want to kill him, or you're really scared of him. Everything's really ramped up.
Yeah. Of course, and that's understandable too. Because otherwise it'd be boring, wouldn't it? If it was just like mediocre feelings towards Krishna. Krishna, But
Like Kanta was so full of fear all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as you obviously know, without Kanks, there's no Vrindavan.
Yeah, it's funny because Prabhupada says in the Krishna book there, says that Kamsa was fully Krishna conscious, but in a negative way. In a negative way. And says, we want to be fully Krishna conscious, but in a positive way. As he's thinking all the time, he's my death personified. He's my doom. He's my, and as Darkesh rightly said, all the time, waking, sleeping, anything, he's just thinking about Krishna all the time. Can you imagine? but in a negative way. But that's the wonderful thing is also about Krishna Lila, is that even Krishna's direst enemies get some great benediction from being killed by Krishna. Even what's her name? Putana coming, and she's like famous as the child killer, and disguising herself as like a goddess. She looked like a goddess, and even Mother Jashoda was like, yeah, I want her to nurse Krishna. It'll be very good. Wet nurse was a thing that was kind of common in those days, and yeah, we want that. She even, Mother Jashoda and all the cowherd girls are totally enamored by her when she came. And so, then Krishna, it said he, as well as sucking the milk from her breast, he sucked her whole life energy from her. But it said that she received the same position. A position of is Datri, it says. Datri means like nursemaid. And so Prabhupada says like on the same level as Mother Jashoda. Of course, that's you have to understand that in the proper context. But given some entrance into Vatsalya Rasa, because Krishna didn't see all the evil intent that was there. Only, she's my mother, like giving me some sustenance like that. So yeah, then any connection with Krishna in any way, shape or form always brings about something wonderful. We are hoping for that connection with Krishna. Even the slightest connection with Krishna, actually, this is confirmed by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says that even the slightest advancement on this path can save one from the greatest fear. And in Guru Maharaj's commentary on the Gita, and he gives purport to that verse, and he's saying this is that the expression that's used in that verse is Mahabhayam, the great fear. And Guru Maharaj says Mahabhayam means the fear of death. So by having even the slightest connection with Krishna's service, then there is no Mahabhayam for the devotee. They don't fear death. They have no fear for that. It's just a stepping stone to them. So Mahabhayam. And Guru Maharaj saying that this is Pashu Buddhi. Says to think that you're going to die is Pashu Buddhi. That means animal consciousness. Animal always afraid that death is coming. They're trying to avoid that all the time. Said, but those and if you think that you will die, then that's just animal consciousness. You have to leave that consciousness and understand that you never die. You never die. Your body may fall down and die, but you do not die.
So, we hear sometimes of devotees who feel afraid of death.
Yeah.
They've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
You're not this body, you don't die, but they're still afraid of death.
Yeah, it's I was with Srila Govinda Maharaj once, in Navadvip, and we were walking together, and there was Haricharan Prabhu, who was, it's like Guru Maharaj's senior brahmachari, and he's walking around Govinda Kund every morning. He'd walk around Govinda Kund. And Gurudev said to me, you see, even he doesn't want to die. He was making that remark, And Guru Maharaj considered him to be like an advanced devotee, Haricharan Prabhu. And so Gurudev saying, look, even he doesn't want to die. Then it's a very big thing, isn't it? You know, it actually, it's the, I suppose it's the ultimate test of your faith, isn't it? Because the truth is, right, the truth is we don't know actually, do we? I mean, those who do know, they know. But we are like hoping that that's right, you know, hoping that's okay. I have to say, you know, like in my darkest times, sometimes I think, you know, I might just die and then that's it. It's all gone. It's all finished. You know, maybe this is all just a big dream that we've been, you know, been practicing this, you know. But so what? If there is nothing, then what did you lose? What did you lose? So Guru Maharaj say, you know, this is, some people say we're just like living a fantasy, a fairy tale. This fairy tale about this boy in Vrindavan with the flute, you know, and all that. But Guru Maharaj said, even if it were like a fairy tale, what have you got to offer us that's better than that? Nothing. Nothing. So we'll stick with that if you don't mind, you know? Because if there is nothing, what did you lose? You just had a beautiful life thinking about this beautiful boy in Vrindavan, right? What could you lose? I remember I used to work with this guy, and he was like a born-again Christian, you know. He was a real rogue previously, like a West Indian guy, and he had so many kids by so many different women, you know, lost count of it. It was a real Lothario, you know, and then he got religion, and you know, then he's like really like born again, you know. And so one day he said to me, "Hey, do you believe in God?" I said, "Yeah, I believe in God." And he said, "Oh, do you go to church?" And I said, "No, I'm not a Christian, but I do believe in God." And he said, "Oh, you know, gave me the whole spiel. Oh, you know, you have to accept Christ as your personal savior." And I said, "Listen, God is all merciful, right? Yes, he's all merciful. And when I die, according to you, I'll go before him to be judged. Is that right? Yes, definitely, you know. So if I find myself in front of him and he says to me, 'You've been following the wrong path all this time,' you know, and I say, 'Oh, but I was trying to find you. I was trying to come to you.' Okay, so maybe I followed the wrong path, but my intention was to find you. And so then if he says, 'So okay now,' and I say, 'But I'm ready to follow the proper path if I made a mistake.' And I said to my colleague, 'Will he accept?' And he thought for a minute or two, and he said, 'Yeah, of course, must do, yeah.' And I said, 'I've got nothing to fear then, haven't I? As long as I'm sincere in my attempt, even if I'm doing it completely wrong, everything, if I'm ready to accept that at the time of my judgment and he accepts me, I've lost nothing.' And he had to agree. Then I said to him, 'So, and then what happens if when you die and you go before the Lord, that it's not Christ there, it's Buddha, let's say, you know, Buddha sitting on the throne there. Will you surrender?' He said, 'Never, never.' I said, 'Well, there you are. That's the difference between you and I, you know.'"
I was texting at the other end of the scale. I was texting my brother yesterday, who's a real atheist.
Okay.
And he'd been approached by a born again on the street, telling him that Jesus loves him.
Yeah.
And he texted me to say, "I can't think of anything more boring or tedious to spend eternity with Jesus." And I thought, "Oh, crikey, you know."
Yeah.
What a fallen state, you know.
Yeah.
Well, in some ways, he's got a point, because they're not taught. We were never taught about any pastimes.
Yeah, it's
You're
funny.
with an old man on a cloud.
Yeah, it's a funny
so
thing, isn't
I'm
it?
not being funny, but who wants to be with an old man on a cloud?
Yeah, it's a funny
I
thing.
prefer to. He's got a point. I'm sorry, Prabhu.
Yeah, you know they have this. I was saying that some Jehovah's Witnesses came round my house the other day and we had a little chat. But you know, they have these two magazines, right? The Watchtower, and the other one, I think it's called Awake, isn't it? The other one, right? But often on the cover, there's like this idyllic, a picture of an idyllic family, like in a kind of paradise. The mum and the dad's there, maybe the dog and the cat, and you know, the children and grandma and everyone. They're all happy.
They've superimposed themselves.
But yeah, exactly. But someone's missing from the picture.
Yeah.
And that's the Lord, right? He's not there. Whatever their conception is, he's just like sitting on a cloud somewhere, providing them with everything that they want in this kind of Eden but there's no thought about what they'll do there.
Exactly.
It's just you'll be with all the people that love you and all the rest of it, you know, then, which is weird, isn't it? You know.
Especially when you're trying to get away from them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
spend eternity with them. It's like.
well, I see. There used to be another fellow, whom he was an American, and he made this like Christian mission. And he used to have a magazine that they would sell at train stations and things called The Plain Truth. Do you remember it? Anyway, I mean, there's a whole story about like how he...
It's not Billy Summit, is it?
No.
Not that one.
No, he's some like American evangelist. And the story of his like rise, I don't know. He made like a Christian college and everything, you know. So then he just put an advert, I think, in the New York Times saying, you know, lecture at such and such hall, what I would do with $1 million, right? Which was a lot more money in those days than it is today. But, you know, then he went to the lecture hall, and he gave his lecture telling all the things that he was going to do if he had $1 million. The main thing was he wanted to open a college to teach about the Bible and all the rest of it, you know. But no one came to the lecture, right? Just a few old ladies getting in out the rain or something, you know. A couple of people, maybe, you know, he hired a huge hall and maybe 10 people came. And maybe half of them didn't even know what was going on, right? They just... But anyway, but he carried on, like with his faith, he carried on. And he gave the whole presentation about what he did. And then he said, anyway, thank you all for listening to me, and, you know, like, appreciate that, and have a good night and everything. And as he's packing up, one man who was like at the back, he just stood up and said, I'll give you $1 million. And he did. And so he started the college, everything like that. And he published this magazine, which was called The Plain Truth. Very similar to the Jehovah's Witness magazine, very similar thing. But one of the things he says in there, right, is in there he's saying that the idea of an immortal soul is not in the Bible, according to his version, right? He's saying this is an interpolation from the Greek philosophers like Plato and Socrates and like that, you know. Then and he said, but we don't see that in the Bible. But we only that it has the potential by being faithful that can become immortal by the, you know. And that their whole idea is that when Christ returns, he's going to wake the faithful from their graves, right? So those particular Christians, they won't be cremated, because you've blown it if you're cremated, haven't you? You know, can't wake up some ashes. But if the body's in there, you know, and that kind of picture is it's like a Night of the Living Dead or something, you know, all these people coming out of the graves, you know. But
it's like a video Michael Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember when I was reading that and I was thinking, okay, but what if you're ugly?
Yeah.
They wake you up and you're ugly. You're ugly for eternity, aren't you? You know?
Suffered from bad acne, and you turn away.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, he was a man of faith, and he through his faith, he got what he wanted. I guess I don't know how that legacy went on, you know, because you never see that magazine or anything anymore. But they have all that, don't they? In America, all those evangelical, you know, send me your money people on the television and everything.
Yeah, there's one famous, praise the Lord. They changed it to pass the loot. PLT, that's what he was known as, pass the loot.
Yeah. So, and people are mad, aren't they? They just, people send them money. Said, ring up this number now and pledge your, and people do it because they think they're going to get the grace of the Lord through doing that, you know. And some guy's just raking it in. Anyway, what can you say? But you know, actually, most religion is mundane. Almost all religion is mundane. Because it's all what we would say saguna, you know, it's all dealing with this world. That's why at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam it said that this idea, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, you know, this is general religion, and this is common to every religion. They may not use those expressions, but the idea is that, right, dharma, that you practice your religion, and when God is pleased with your practice, then he gives you everything that you require. Artha, you know, you become prosperous by the grace of the Lord. You become prosperous, and then karma. That means you get sense enjoyment from your wealth. You can, you know, get sense enjoyment, and then at the end you get moksha, which is, you know, whatever that may be according to your faith. You know, so this is common to all religion, is like that, you know, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. There's that same person who I was telling you about, he told me, yeah, we have a prayer meeting every week, you know, we meet up, but we meet up about like an hour or so before the prayer meeting, before we go to the hall or the church or wherever it is, you know, and I'll say, oh, Prabhu, and they don't say Prabhu, but, you know, what is it that you require, you know? And he said, well, you know, my car's a bit clapped out, I could do with a new car, and my daughter's going for her exam, and he's saying, yeah, my brother-in-law, he has to go for some surgery, you know, we hope it's going to be successful. So I find out what it is that you want, and you find out what I want. And then when we go to the prayer meeting, we pray for each other, right? Because we know you shouldn't pray for things for yourself, you know, like, so you'll pray for me, I'll pray for you. And I said, and is he fooled by that? So what do you mean? I said, God, is he fooled by that? Because you're basically trying to cheat him, aren't you? You know, like trying. Yes, you know. And he said, he got really upset with me then. Oh, you know, why are you saying like that? You know, it's just, we're just trying to do good for each other. You know? Oh, okay, but you know, this is a very common but materialistic view of religion, and not just Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Jews, everyone. They are thinking about dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. That you practice your religion, and as a result of that, you become prosperous, and then you can enjoy life, and then finally you go to heaven or whatever it is that you. So this is in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says this is rejected. These ideas are rejected as kaitabya dharma. Kaitabya means cheating religion. So there's no hint of that in this book. No kaitabya dharma. And this is what Narad tells Vyasadeva. You know, when Vyasadeva finished compiling all the Vedic literatures, all the histories, all the Puranas, everything, and he's not feeling the satisfaction that he thinks he should get from doing that. And that because of that, Narad appears in his ashram and he places his thoughts before him. And Narad says, yeah, this is why I've come. And he said, because what you've done, it's all very well what you've done, but you've made a jungle, a religious jungle. And no one that wants to actually know what the essential truth is will be able to fathom that. You know, there's too much, like overload of information, right? And we know that in the Veda, different Vedas, they, according to the consciousness of the reader, they see things in different ways. So in some scripture, is told that Narayan is the highest, and in another scripture, it's told that Shiva's the highest, or even Indra is the highest, or Brahma, or like this different versions, or that just the impersonal Brahman, that's what you should be going for, and it's very confusing to the ordinary person. So Narada says, so you hinted at it, and in some places you've shown that, but not clearly. So now you have to begin your work, your magnus opus, if you like, and present the absolute truth without any hint of any other, any kind of duplicity or anything, because those concepts are necessary in the progress of a person's spiritual development, right? So, the scripture says, if you do this, perform this sacrifice, then the rain will come or something, When you see that the rain comes after doing it, then you get faith, right? Oh, this is real, it's something real. So this way people progress. But as to what the absolute consideration is, that's not given there. So, and we mustn't forget that, and it's an important point, that Veda Vyas isn't the author of the Vedas. He's the compiler of the Vedas, right? They've all been presented by different sages and rishis and so on, and he's just brought them all together. But Srimad Bhagavatam, he is the author of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that Narad gave him this like Chatur Shloki, these 4 nutshell verses, and said, you meditate on this and it will come to you. And that's what he did, right? And you can imagine, right, after giving everything, all the Vedic knowledge, then he's at the peak of his own spiritual realization. He's not stagnant, right? He's also progressive. So he's come to the peak of his own realization, and now he's ripe to give Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's why, in the very first chapter, it says, you won't find any kaitavya here, nothing superfluous to the real understanding of what is the spiritual reality. That's what this book is meant for and what it's all about. So then that was also necessary for him to be able to present Srimad Bhagavatam. And so that's, it's also called Bhagavat Purana, and also sometimes Amala Purana. Amala means spotless. There's no defect in there, nothing in there that doesn't need to be there. So, then that's an incredible thing, that's been given to the world in such an intense way.
The pinnacle of the Vedas.
Yeah.
The final point.
Yeah.
It ends with Krishna's Leela.
Yeah. You don't need to go anywhere else. Actually, Srila Guru Maharaj said, once you've come to the conception of Srimad Bhagavatam, to try to look elsewhere for spiritual inspiration will become the enemy of your faith. There is no higher conception than what Vyasadeva has presented there in Srimad Bhagavatam. But also important to hear that from a realized soul. That's also important for us. And truth is given in installments, right? Srila Prabhupada mentions that in many places. Most people, they just jump straight to the 10th canto, right? And dive in there. But it is necessary for your own development to go from the first canto and all the way up to the 10th canto.
I think that's why it starts as in the creation.
Yeah.
The very beginning.
Yeah, of course. It's all necessary because that's Sambandha Gyan, right? You need to understand all of those relative things and how they affect one another Otherwise, you're just being thrown in the deep end. You won't be able to make any sense of it. So, you know, then that's an extraordinary thing. So that, but you won't find that. Even that's the same, you know, we're not preaching Hinduism. We're preaching Mahaprabhu's conception, which, you know, it looks like Hinduism. Even to Hindus that come here, they think, oh, it's a Hindu temple. But it's not Hinduism, actually. Although, having said that, like ISKCON now, at least in the United Kingdom, they're regarded as the, you know, Orthodox Hindu, followers of Orthodox Hinduism. And I'd say, if that becomes known as Hinduism, what Prabhupada gave, if people say that's Hinduism, let them call it Hinduism, you know. If they're following what Prabhupada gave, then let that be Hinduism, you know. But we know, actually, most Hindus is just like a Khichdi kind of religion, isn't it, you know. A bit here and a bit there and mix it all up together. And
but also in East Europe, ISKCON are having great success, but they're preaching Hinduism. That's what it's known as now, that's what it's... But it's not. They're not preaching Hinduism as such.
no, that's what
in their countries.
that's what it's classed as, yeah. But that's my
Hinduism, Hindu religion.
that's my point. If they want to describe Hinduism as the teachings of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, let it be Hinduism. We don't mind. Then and if all Hindus come to see that as the standard, the proper, you know, the Siddhanta of their religion, let them call it that, or call it whatever they want, you know, and anyone else call it what they want. So even when, you know, when my kids were growing up, I'm sure you all have a similar experience, and they're going to school and you have to tick the box what the religion is, you know. Well, you put Hinduism, don't you, you know, mainly, you know. I remember my daughter, I can't remember, I'm sorry, but I'm sure they'll remember. I think it was Malini, but I can't remember if it was Malini or Nadia, but they came home in abject tears one day from school, you know, and I was like, "What's the problem? What's the problem?" And she said in the RE class, you know, religious education class, the teacher said, "Put your hands up at anyone here that's a Hindu," and of course she put her hand up, right? And the teacher just said, "Don't be so stupid, you're not a Hindu, you know. You're a white girl, you know." Like, and she, I am. She in tears, came home in tears. They said I wasn't a Hindu. Yeah. So, it's kind of the convenient thing to do, right? And it's also a difficult thing. I remember, you know, like some of our devotees, I remember, you know, like Mukunda's kids, Krishna Bandhu, Leela Sundar, wouldn't cut their sheik off when they went to school, you know, and the school was very upset about it, and you know, then, but you know, so I remember when Nitai Chand, you know, Mahadevi's boy and Almala Harinam's boy, and he was saying to me, he was like maybe 15 or something, you know, and he said, "I want to take second initiation, you know, and have the sacred thread now." And I said, "Okay, but you're still at school, aren't you?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "So what are you going to do when they make you take off your sacred thread to do sports?" "I don't know." And I said, "Are you prepared to fight not to take it? Because they will, you know that, right? You have to take it off, yeah. So, but if you, the scripture says if you remove your sacred thread and a non-Brahmin touches you, you have to have the fire again to again have the sacred thread. So I said to him, are you willing to like fight for that? And there was that Sikh girl, do you remember? It was in the news. She was growing a beard. Did you see it?
A girl.
A girl, yeah. Just some kind of, but she was a Sikh, right? And they're telling her she had to like shave or whatever. And she's wearing a turban and a beard and she wouldn't do it. She fought. No, this is my religion. And so they allowed her to keep it finally. You know, many similar things. Like some places, they won't let the Christian girls wear crucifixes either, you know.
That's in France, they're not allowed.
Yeah, I mean, even here, some of the schools don't, because they just consider it as jewelry, right? You're not allowed to wear jewelry in the school. So one of my daughters, they made her take off her tulsi mala. I said, no, you can't wear jewelry, you know. I said, no, it's my religion. But they made her take it off. And they said, I'll go and talk to them if you want, but it's up to you whether you're willing to stand up for that or not. So I said to Nitai Prabhu, I can arrange for you to get second initiation, but you have to understand that you're not supposed to remove your sacred thread once you've been given it, right? So if you're not really willing to fight for that, then I would say, just wait till you finish school and then take it, you know? It's like, what's the rush? Then after you finish school, it's like 1 more year you had at school or something. Once you finish school, you can do whatever you want, right? Wear whatever you like. So he agreed, and that's what we did. We waited. When he finished school, we gave him second initiation then. So, you know. And I did have to write letters for some of the parents whose kids had been asked to remove their tulsi mala and things like that. And some of them allowed it and some of them didn't, you know. What to do.
My daughter was asked to remove her tulsi beads when she was at school.
Yeah.
And her mother really sorted out the teacher
Okay.
with the source, you know.
Yeah.
And she was allowed to wear the beads.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
I think it's allowed now. I think now.
It depends on the school, you know. It depends on the school. Because they were trying to make Krishna Bandhu and Leela Sundar cut off their shika, you know. Because, in fact, who was it? Was it? I think it was them. Or maybe it was even Gadadhar, Saraswati's boy, went to school with a shaved head and a shika, and they sent him home and said, "You can't come here with a shaved head, you know, to school."
That's mad, you know, 'cause like, I see kids with all sorts of hairstyles.
Yeah.
What kind of year was that?
It was
the
maybe
90s.
maybe 10 or more years ago,
Yeah.
maybe 20 years ago even, you know. But
Because they're the same age as my kids. So.
but it was like a private school, you know, that he was going to, so they had like very kind of high, you know, like standards of uniform and everything, you know. And they just say, no, you can't come here with a shaved head and with a ponytail sticking out the back, you know. So either and they sent him home until his hair had grown out a bit, you know. So
It's not necessary to
no,
go to school anyway. But it's just really.
I'm not. It's all external, isn't it?
Yeah.
But for sometimes it's important, isn't it? You know, to the devotee.
It's always time, place, circumstance.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But sorry, going back to Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to read it to get the proper idea, but
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam is such a huge treatise,
Yeah.
and it was and it's put together by yesterday. It's like an astronomical genius.
Yeah.
It's like, and in the Chaitanya Bhagavad, as everyone's read, and Devananda says, to Mahaprabhu, you know, his conclusion, and Mahaprabhu says, yeah, this is very difficult to understand, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right?
Yeah.
But it's actually the whole thing leads to devotion. But for most of us, most people reading it, it's a little bit confusing, I think, sometimes.
Well, that's why you meant to hear it from a realized soul, and that actually is where Srila Prabhupada's purports are very helpful to us, you know, because he explains the meaning of it. But yeah, nevertheless, I mean, some people say, oh, you shouldn't read Srimad Bhagavatam, just read Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I don't really agree with that. But it is true, if you just give your attention to Mahaprabhu, you'll understand all the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's true. But why did Prabhupada work so hard to present Srimad Bhagavatam if we're not supposed to read it? You know, I don't think that's true. But you know, we were at at the Hatton Cross, the opening of the temple there, and or it might have been one of the anniversaries, but then and Kripa Moya came there, for the opening, and yeah, it was the opening, and Kripa Moya was there, and then Jainataya was the president at Soho Street that time. Him and his wife, they also came, right? So, and we're taking just after we're taking prasadam, then Jainataya and his wife, they're going, right? And so I went to see them out and see them off, and I came back, and I was sitting with Kripa Moya, and the Kripa Moya was talking with, I won't say who it was, but sannyasi, one of our sannyasis, and he looked at me. I could see like this sannyasi had obviously said something like nuts to him, and he said, but he was very controlled, but I could see in his eyes he was looking at me, and he said, "Oh, I just asked Maharaj. I was asking him, in his opinion, what book should you read for a newcomer, And he said, and he told me that Govinda Maharaj told him not to read any books. And he looked at me and he said, I could see in his eyes, he's like saying, please tell me that's not true. And I said, and I kind of made a joke of it. I said, well, maybe he told him not to read any books, but, that's really not the normal thing,
No, it's not the normal thing. But there's a little bit of truth in as much as to read the conversation of devotees, it's like reading is like getting on a train. The end stop is Vrindavan, but there's many different pastimes, and a lot of devotees, you can see it, they'll get off at the wrong station.
No, that's true.
Because of a misconception, so the safer position, it's not that we don't read, but the safer position is always
to hear from the Vaishnava.
But by reading a book with purports, surely you are associating with a pure devotee.
That's true.
Is that also?
That's true, but also, like as Guru Maharaj said, the book is passive, right?
Yeah.
So when you read the book, you can misunderstand it, and the book won't correct you in your misunderstanding. So Guru Maharaj says that there's the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. And of the two, the person Bhagavat is more helpful to us, because if we do misunderstand something, that the person Bhagavat can correct us. This is like, if you, we know that notoriously they say, that Nidra Devi likes to come to the Srimad Bhagavatam class, right? Which means that people fall asleep when they're hearing the Bhagavatam class. And Nidra Devi comes. Nidra means sleep, right? So she comes. But that's the thing. When you're reading the book, even with the purports and everything, sometimes you nod off, and maybe even drool over the book. But the book won't wake you up, but the person will. Probably wake up, stand up, like whatever, like that. So it is more helpful to study under a qualified Vaishnava. But it's not always that there is a qualified Vaishnava. So therefore, it's very helpful if that qualified Vaishnava has given purports. That's like extremely helpful. But having said that, it is very difficult to get the gist, for me at least, to get the gist of what's being said if you only read one verse a day. Which they do, like in ISKCON, isn't it? They'll do one verse a day, and you can't follow the flow of it. I understand that, they're studying the purport and everything, but I think it's also important to read like a chapter, or to get to understand what's going on there. So.
But in the Gaudiya Maths, and even Saraswat Math, the devotees, they don't have books, they just have the classes. And then whoever's giving the class, but otherwise none of them will go off and read, or very, very few of them.
Yeah, I mean, Srila Govinda Maharaj.
Can't read.
No, Srila Govinda Maharaj said that, you know, that this is like the Indian way, is once you accept your spiritual master, then your duty is to serve, not to be studying and all these things, you know, that. He said, but Srila Govinda Maharaj said, but I was an exception to that. Guru Maharaj wanted me to read and told me, gave me the books to read. You know, he said he tick marked like 20 or 30 songs in Charanagati and said, I want you to memorize all those songs within a week. And he did.
Did he read for the public?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they every
in temple.
yeah every day they read Srimad Bhagavatam in the afternoon.
Yeah,
All
Swami Maharaj used to do it.
All the Gaudiya Math, even Guru Maharaj's godbrothers, they didn't have books. They would, somebody would read.
But
It's
Swami
not the
Maharaj
norm.
did.
Yeah. He kind of introduced that, and that's how we've become very accustomed.
Yeah.
But even the other mats outside of the Gaudiya Vaishnava, there's very few books or very few devotees
But
reading.
not to read yourself. I think this concept of just
No one's
serving-
saying you shouldn't read.
No, I know
That's
you're
not
not.
what
I know
I'm
you're
saying.
not. But I'm just thinking that you must be of quite a higher level of consciousness to be able to not read and just serve. Because I know that if I didn't read regularly, I'd be even more off the wall than I am now. And it's to me, it's absolutely vital to read every day.
Yeah.
But so I just think that someone who doesn't have to, but somehow maintains their enthusiasm, must be quite elevated already.
There's
you know?
also the intent behind it. If it's read for service, for their pleasure, then it becomes seva. If it's read, that's up to the individual. Just to boost my false ego with knowledge, then it becomes problematic.
Right, okay.
Then it's not so good. It can lead.
But having
boosting
said
the
that,
ego.
the books that, you know, all those books that we published, they were meant to be read.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so and Srila Govinda Maharaj said, you know, there is a different mentality with Indian people than there is with Western people, right? Because we've had a different kind of education. Like Saraswat Thakur said, that anyone who's had a Western education will find it very difficult to accept the concept of a guru. That one person will have so much control over your life, you know. And the Western education system, we're taught to question everything, be independent, and all of these things, you know. So that's there. But Srila Govinda Maharaj said, yeah, generally, when you come to serve in a mott, after initiation, he said, the time for questions and everything is before the initiation. After initiation, your duty is to serve. And, you know, generally not so much questioning. And he said, because of this, he said, I was the exception because I'm Guru Maharaj's personal servant, right? But because of that, most of our devotees never read anything, you know. He said, but when the Western devotees came to Guru Maharaj and they had so many questions, he said, this is when Guru Maharaj showed his wealth, his spiritual wealth to the world, you know. So, and all these books came out as a result of that. And so, you know, that whatever Srila Govinda Maharaj did or didn't say to that particular sannyasi that I was talking about, I don't know. But I do know that Srila Govinda Maharaj said, our books are not to just be read once, they should be read again and again and again. And also he said, this was our fortune when the Western devotees came and they had all these questions for Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj then was showing his wealth, right, of scriptural knowledge and everything, you know. Then he said, Srila Govinda Maharaj said, many things that Guru Maharaj taught us. He said, but there was one point that he repeated to me many times, and I don't know what it is, I'm sorry, and he said, but hearing it from Guru Maharaj, I never quite understood it till I read it in English in Golden Volcano. When Guru Maharaj gave it in English, he said, then I Oh, that's what he meant. You know, like he got it. And Guru Maharaj himself said, I was born to preach in the English language, you know. So, well, you know that, you know, then it's... So, and of course, you know, like Prabhupada, he was writing so much, right? So much. That all the books that he made, it's like impossible for somebody to do that, really, for an ordinary person to do that. It's like sleeping a few hours every night and then he's up and he's with his dictaphone and everything, right? Doing all that, all the translations and everything that he did. And he didn't do that for us not to read them, you know, what does it mean, you know? And also because we are, you can say, right, that this was Srila Govinda Maharaj's question to Guru Maharaj. Said that Bhavananda Maharaj, he gave a lecture once at Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And he said in his lecture, he was telling how Vipralambha, or union and separation, is the highest ideal in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And Govinda Maharaj said, I asked Guru Maharaj, how can this like American man who's been like practicing Krishna consciousness for maybe 10 years, how can he understand this? When many of our devotees who've been around for a long time, they still don't get it, you know? And Guru Maharaj said, because the Western devotees don't have any namaparad. So, but most Hindus, they're full of namaparad from their upbringing, mainly thinking that Krishna is just one of the gods, that Krishna is the same as, which we know is namaparad, right, to think like that. Almost every Hindu thinks that. That, you know, Krishna, Durga, you know, they have that thing called Panchupasana, the 5 gods. Narayan or Vishnu, Krishna is one, and then there's Durga, then there's Ganesh, then there's Surya, and who's the other? Shiva. So that's called Panchupasana, and you can just choose anyone you want, you know, and they just think they're all the same. And even after so many years of preaching, that almost all Hindus believe that still. They still think Krishna's one of the gods, you know, not like it. And we know that's Namaparad. So Guru Maharaj said, the Westerners don't have that because they're a blank slate. You know what they call that? Tambula rasa, right? Completely blank slate. So you can write on that blank slate. Then they can advance very quickly in their understanding of Krishna consciousness because they don't have that. This is one of our friends, our Bengali congregation that come here. They asked me if you'll do an intervention. One of their members' sons was going to convert to Islam, you know. And they wanted me to, and I thought it was one of the kids that came to my classes that I did for the children there, you know. But it turns out the son was 25 years old and works in the city, and you know, like, he was a man, and he's like, this was his decision that he'd made, right? So anyway, I couldn't go to meet him at that time. So they had like an intervention, all the like members of their sangha, they had this intervention, he said, that man said, my main problem is all these millions of gods. I just want one God. I can't deal with all these millions of gods. And then one of the congregation said, but Krishna says in the Gita that he's the supreme God, and that he's the only one. You only need to worship him, right? And then that man said, yeah, but you don't follow that, do you? Right? He said, yeah, that may be there, but you don't follow that. Okay, what can you say? It's true. They know it, you know. Krishna says, those who are less intelligent, they worship the devatas because they don't realize that whatever they give is coming from me ultimately, right? They've heard it, but still they think, it is all the same, you know. Just, you know, it's a rare thing. It's rare that someone will be able to understand that concept. And so, in a sense, we have that's our good fortune.
It's true, because for all of us,
Yeah, what do
the
we know?
world over, that West, once we've accepted Krishna, we've more or less
Yeah,
accepted
yeah.
that for us he's the Supreme Personality.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so much evidence to that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, they don't like to read or or look any deeper, you know, than what their like family tradition is.
When Indian people, preacher,
Yeah,
they do Bhagavad Sapta,
yeah,
so reading Bhagavatam, but they, where they are sitting, they keep Bhagavatam or Ramayana.
okay.
book, and maybe reading just one sloka, and 4 hours they are talking about it. And they can't read all Bhagavad in 1 week.
No.
So maybe sloka, each sloka or something, Bhagavad or Ramayana, whatever. But they keep it. Maybe reading from it. That's why they keep, otherwise why they keep it. And also turning pages as well. So like in a Bhagavatam, some people know about elephant story, Gajraj.
Gajendra, yeah.
Narayan coming and helping.
Yeah.
So some of the kind of katha, they know by heart.
Sure.
They read it so many times.
Yeah.
So they keep the Bhagavatam or Ramayana something and just talking about it.
Yeah.
But the issue arises is when
They're doing it
read
as a
about
living.
Durga, for example, which is fine, pastime, but she has her place. But the confusion starts is when they're put on the same pedestal, and then there starts to be all the other gods. You see,
They talk about
they become. Then you start having not one supreme personality of Godhead, and many different parts and pastimes and leaders. Then you start having just many gods. And they with
Yeah.
equal
Have you
footing.
seen that Bhagavatam, when they are reading Bhagavatam on the stage,
Yeah.
and 20, 30,000 people listening.
Yeah.
Some
It's
musician
very
there as well.
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
Bhajan Kirtan as well.
But we're advised not to hear that.
Yeah, not to hear, but I thought the point is we are discussing to keep book or
But what?
No,
something to read
Yeah, no,
No,
that's all right.
It's good that
or
they-
just talk.
It's good that they're doing that, and there's guitar going on. But it's when, like I'm saying, it's when Durga, Shiva, or others are taken out of context and then
I think.
put on the same level.
No, I think we're maybe on cross purposes here, though. You know, I don't think Diddy's talking about that.
No,
Talking about.
I was just thinking that
Oh, is that
you
because I
keep
was
book or
saying
read
Yeah.
from the
Many
book.
different
Yeah.
gods.
I mean, yeah, in our mott, in Navadip and everything, then they have the book. They read. Someone reads from the book every day, you know. But anyway, that's
It's a bit like how the Christian church used to be before
Yeah.
Luther came along.
But Swami Maharaj introduced, so we should be, he is a guru, so
yeah.
keep following, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah. No, it's important that, you know, otherwise we won't know anything, will we? If we don't read the book, we won't know anything. And that's, you know, before Prabhupada came, what do we know about Krishna? I mean, okay, you know about Krishna, as you were born you're born in that, but what do we know about Krishna, you know? Before Google and all of that, right, it was Encyclopedia Britannica was the way you would go if you wanted to hear, like, find out something. And what does that say? What does Encyclopedia Britannica say about Krishna? You know?
But if you
Just
don't
some
read the
Hindu
book,
god, you know?
You just talking from your heart.
Yeah.
That could be something wrong as well.
Of course, yeah.
And
Almost certainly would be something wrong.
it really hindered Prabhupada's mission if we didn't read the books.
Yeah.
Give out the books, right?
Yeah, and anyway, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. You see that they distributed like millions of books, under Prabhupada's direction, but it wasn't. It wasn't just so that people would have books. The presumption is that people will read those books, And then by reading that book, that will affect them to want to become a devotee of Krishna. Of course. What else? That must be the result of those books. Otherwise, it's a big waste of time, isn't it? You know. And Prabhupada, and people did become devotees because of reading Prabhupada's books.
Yeah.
And still becoming devotees from reading Prabhupada's books. So, you know, then, of course, sometimes I wonder if people do read books anymore.
But isn't reading the books is to bring you to your guru? And
Yeah,
you
of
said
course.
After you met your guru, there's no necessity for the books. It
Well-
must be more than just reading to get
Yeah.
to reveal truth.
But Guru Maharaj says that also, right? That if we think that when someone's reading Srimad Bhagavatam or that's just gyan, we're not going to listen to that. We'll just get on with our service, right? Guru Maharaj said this is wrong conception. What is giving the conception of Krishna consciousness? We should always give our ear to that. We should hear that. But you know, then, but we have to be a little bit, what's the word? Discriminatory. Who are we hearing from? Just because someone's got a chair and you know, and a book and maybe with some red dress and a top knot or whatever, it doesn't mean that we should hear from them.
But do you think there's a differentiation between people who actually live in the temple and people who live outside the temple?
In what sense?
In regard to books, reading them.
No, I think, if you ask me, I think everyone needs to read the books. Otherwise, they're not going to understand. You know, then because people have their own conception, and I remember being in Navadvip, and it was Guru Maharaj's Vyasa Puja, and there were hundreds of devotees there, because Guru Maharaj has many Indian disciples also, right? So this one man sitting next to me, young man, and his name was Rukmini something, I forget now, but anyway, he seemed like a nice person, you know, and we're discussing about Krishna consciousness, and he said to me, we like Krishna because he didn't kill anyone. Ram killed so many. We don't like that. And I'm thinking, like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, and you're supposed to be a disciple of Sridhar Maharaj, and you're coming out with that kind of rot. You know, that's not our conception at all. It's because they don't read anything, and they don't hear anything. Then what is going to be the result of that? You have to hear.
So believing it or understanding it, people read things like, for instance, like the first thing Srila Prabhupada used to read was, "You're not this body," right?
Yeah.
But how many people actually believe that they're not this body? I mean, after devotees, after so many years, they still think, I'm American, I'm this and that.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, they can't get rid of that concept.
Yeah, that's something. For the soul, death and being part of the body is unnatural. But for the mind, looking and seeing that with the body and death and fearing it, that's perfectly natural.
Yeah, that's also the 10th offence, isn't it, to the holy name? Is after hearing so many things, to still consider yourself in a mundane way, you know. And okay, because until you have actual realization, it's just theoretical, isn't it? Everything.
It's like what you said about the clean slate.
Yeah.
It's like, I could have heard that, and I'd parrot, just say it to someone else. It's just the highest thing because I've read it or heard it.
Yeah.
But I don't really have any concept about that.
No, that's true.
So,
Yeah, and that happens too. We parrot. I mean, there was a time when when we all joined ISKCON, and there were the the new 11, or as we used to call them, the Pad Squad, because they all had their Pad name, didn't they? They all had their Pad name.
Yeah.
Vishnu Pad or Kirtan Pad or this Pad and that Pad, the Pad Squad, and they were all. Maybe I don't want to paint them all with the same brush, but they were all like expert at imitating Prabhupada.
I
How
knew
he
was gonna say
how
that.
he spoke and his so these things are going on. You hear that all the time. These
the
things are
cough.
going on, and because what? They've only been in the mission like 10 years or something themselves. Of all of the disciples, I think Saraswat Maharaj was probably the oldest one of all of them. They were all just in their 30s, and now they're all gurus that have to,
Just going back to one point, you'll know Prabhu, I can't remember. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta had the name for his printing press. He said, this is the Madanga. And he called his printing press something Madanga.
Brihad Madanga.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the Madanga instrument will be heard in our way, but the other Madanga, the printing press, will be heard all over the world. And his intention was also for people to read,
Yeah, of course.
Jivas to read Krishna conscious literature.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I remember in the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they published a daily newspaper about Krishna consciousness. Daily newspaper. I mean, that's like incredible.
And there was a lot of information.
Yeah, it's
And
incredible.
everyone ran out of stories.
And the editor of the Amrit Bazar Patrika, which is a Bengali newspaper, still going today, but the editor was a friend of Saraswati Thakur. And he asked him, like, how can you publish a newspaper about spiritual every day?
Yeah,
And Saraswati Thakur just looked at him incredulously and said,
exactly.
but you're an editor of a newspaper. Do you ever have a day when there's nothing to print? There's no news to print? He said, and that's just the mundane world. You don't think there's something to print from the spiritual world every day?
Yeah, exactly.
So, then, really, I mean, you can't imagine. We can't imagine what kind of printing. And as Guru Maharaj told us that in Calcutta, where the press was directly under Saraswati Thakur's rooms. His rooms were on the first floor, and the press was on the ground floor. And they used to run it during the night, and if those presses are kagang, 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 as they're going,
Do you remember Kali Yuga Pavana?
I do, yeah.
In Saraswat Mat, the press.
Yeah, by the gate, yeah. Yeah, so that we had that kind of press too. And this is where they actually did set type, like with tweezers and everything, to make a page. And
Yeah, it's a bit tight.
and that's going like kadang, all night. And somebody asked him, like, doesn't that disturb you? The noise of the press. And he said, no, I don't hear that. I hear kirtan.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear it as kirtan. So.
What did he call it again? I can't remember.
Brihad Madanga.
We saw that printing press where we went to Bag Bazaar.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
It's the same type of printing press that we had at Saraswat Mat.
yeah,
Very similar, one-plated.
yeah. That was the way we did it.
Time-consuming. Yeah,
Really,
putting
yeah.
away. Yeah.
Anyhow, I think it's time to do arti, huh? Toshan Prabhu here.
He was.
I think it's
Yes, he.
Toshan Prabhu can lead the kirtan. It's good. Okay. Jai Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Radha Shama Sundar Giridhari Ju ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari.
Jai Jagannath, Jai Saraswati, Gaur Bhakta.